Today's lesson is on health and wellness. Listen to this dialogue between Carla and Ellen. How are you feeling today, Ellen?
Hi, Carla. I am well, thank you. How are you?
Actually, I don't feel very well today, Ellen.
I'm sorry. What's the matter?
I have a sore throat and a stuffy nose. My head hurts, too.
Maybe some cough syrup and a decongestant would help you feel better.
Thank you, Ellen. Maybe I'll go to the pharmacy now. I do want to feel better. Okay. This is how to use one of the verbs that we use when we talk about how we feel or what hurts is the verb hurt. How do we use the verb hurt? We say, for example, my back hurts, my head hurts, my stomach hurts. So for one thing, we say hurts. If it's more than one thing that is hurting, then we use just hurt. My shoulders hurt, my feet hurt, my eyes hurt. Okay. What are some ways that we can talk about our health? We can say, I have a headache. I have a backache, a toothache, a stomachache, or an earache. So the word ache refers to the pain that you have there. So if you have a headache, right, you have pain in your head. A backache, you have a pain in your back. So those parts of the body can have the word ache attached to them, and they form a new word. So a headache. A bad headache would be a migraine, for example. A headache, a backache, a toothache. My tooth hurts. I have a toothache. My stomach hurts. I have a stomach ache. My ear hurts. I have an earache. Okay. These are some other ways that you could talk about what's wrong with you. I have a cold. I have congestion if your nose is stuffy. A fever and a normal temperature in the United States is 98.6 Fahrenheit, 37 degrees centigrade. We use the Fahrenheit scale. So at home, your thermometer is probably a Fahrenheit. So it's 98.6. Anything above that would be a fever. Allergies. People have allergies to all kinds of things. My daughter is allergic to cats, but you can be allergic to foods like peanuts, for example, or shellfish. There are even allergies like to flour, gluten, for example. You might have a cough or trouble breathing. You can use that expression with many things. I have trouble walking. I have trouble breathing. I have trouble sleeping, for example. Maybe you have a sore throat, meaning that maybe a cold's coming on, your throat hurts, you have a sore throat. Insomnia means that you are not sleeping very well or trouble sleeping. A runny nose or a stuffy nose. A runny nose just needs to be blown a lot. A stuffy nose means that you have congestion. An itch, the chills, so you get cold, or hot flashes, the opposite, you get really hot. A rash, maybe you have a rash due to an allergic reaction, or maybe you have a rash because you were bitten by a bug. So that's a possibility to have a rash. So anytime you have bumps on your skin, that would be called a rash. A bruise is when you have a black and blue mark on your skin. Maybe you hit something by mistake and you have a black and blue mark. Sprained or broken limb, for example, a sprained ankle or a broken finger. We don't want you to have that, obviously, but sprained means that it's only a little bit, but broken is definitely a broken. The bone is in two. Heartburn is when you have eaten something and it did not sit well with you, didn't go well with. So you have maybe, you feel a heat in your esophagus, in your throat, or in your stomach. It just doesn't feel well. So that's heartburn. If you eat lots of spicy food sometimes, it will give you that feeling in your stomach. The flu is influenza. A migraine is a very bad headache. An insect bite or a bee sting or a mosquito bite can cause a red bump on your skin, right? Nausea. Most people say nausea, meaning that your stomach is upset. A bad sunburn. If you go out in the sun, you should wear lotion, sunscreen, in order not to get a bad sunburn. And nosebleeds. Okay, let's look at some things that we would give as advice. So what advice would you give someone with these minor symptoms? And there's a dialogue that I have here. For example, I have a sore throat. Maybe someone might say to me, oh, you should drink tea with lemon and honey. I say, yes, I will. Thank you. So try these. I have a sore throat. I have a bruise. I have a bee sting. I have trouble sleeping sometimes. And I have a nosebleed. What kinds of advice would you give someone who has a bruise? What advice? So I have a bruise. What could you say? Maybe you should put ice on it so that the bruise is not so bad. I have a bee sting. Ice would work there too. Some people for bee stings just use cold water or use cortisone cream or maybe Benadryl. Some people can be very allergic to bees, so you have to be careful with the swelling. I have trouble sleeping sometimes. There are lots of home cures that people can use for that, but trouble sleeping, sometimes people say, drink a glass of warm milk, or they might tell you to put some lavender in your room or put a lavender candle at your bedside, or try counting sheep, or read for a little bit until you get tired and then you will sleep better. How about a nosebleed? I have a nosebleed. What are some things I could do? I could put my head back a little bit and pinch at the top of my nose to stop it bleeding. Maybe I could just hold my nose for a little bit, apply pressure in the middle of my nose so that maybe it would stop bleeding, put my head back a little bit, not too far back, but just a little bit to make it stop. Okay, and take a look at this next activity. When would you give someone this advice? For example, when would the advice be, don't eat a lot of spicy foods? Well, you wouldn't want to eat a lot of spicy foods if you have heartburn. So take a look at the others in this exercise and see if you can think of when would you give someone this advice, and come up with an idea for each one of these. Okay, I'm going on. Are these things in your medicine cabinet? These are things that perhaps you would use, day in and day out. You would use a lot at home with your family, especially if you have children. And they are things that a lot of people have in their medicine cabinet. I'm going to pronounce them for you. And you think, what would you use these for? Bandages, gauze, or Band-Aids. Aspirin, decongestant, antihistamines, expectorant. Expectorant is a special syrup, cough syrup that you use that is supposed to help you stop coughing. Antacid, anti-itch cream, eye drops, antibiotic cream, ibuprofen, an ice pack, a heating pad, an inhaler, aloe or sunburn lotion, lozenges. Lozenges can also be called cough drops. They are a hard candy, sometimes made with honey and lemon or cherry, and they help you when you have a pain in your throat, when you have a sore throat. And an EpiPen. An EpiPen is for very bad allergic reactions. It's an injection that you give yourself if you're having an allergic reaction. Okay, in this activity, I give you the symptoms and you are going to say what the treatment is. So here's the symptom. I have a stomach ache. What is the treatment? Well, maybe you can try an antacid. Okay, let's do some together. So I have a big cut on my finger. What could I do? I could use a Band-Aid. I could maybe before the Band-Aid put antibiotic cream on my finger. I'm tired and I ache all over. Remember, the word ache means that you have pains. So you're tired and you ache all over. What could you do for that? Well, maybe you could take ibuprofen to help with the pain. Maybe you could just rest and put up your feet and feel better in a few minutes. I sneeze and cough a lot. Maybe a cold is coming on. So if you cough and sneeze a lot, if you have a stuffy nose, you might try a decongestant. If you're just coughing, no stuffy nose, nothing else, maybe an expectorant to get rid of the cough. I have so many mosquito bites. This happens to me all the time in summer. I get lots of mosquito bites. They love me, those mosquitoes. And mine turn bright red and the big bump, bright red bump. So I use anti-itch cream, but that's after, right? Anti-itch cream. Or maybe even cortisone cream. I'm allergic to the grass and trees. Many people are allergic to grass and trees, especially when the trees are budding. So maybe what you might do is take an antihistamine to help with that. I have a sprained ankle. Well, you definitely want to put up the ankle. You want to elevate the ankle. But maybe something you could do would be to take ibuprofen for pain and also use an ice pack on your ankle to help it not get too swollen. If you have trouble breathing, what could you do if you have trouble breathing? Maybe it's due to allergy, so an antihistamine might work, depending on why you have trouble breathing. If it's allergies, it would be an antihistamine. If it's a reaction, you would need an EpiPen to something. Or maybe if it's due to asthma, you would use an inhaler. And my eyes are really red and itchy. And maybe that's just because you're tired, but if they're red and itchy, maybe you're allergic to something, and you might try eye drops to help with that. Okay, so the next activity has to do with the names of doctors, and I'm going to pronounce them for you, and I want you to go back and try to figure out what that doctor does. Match the name of the specialist to their job on the right, okay? A cardiologist, a general practitioner. We often refer to this doctor as a GP, a pediatrician, a physical therapist. We often say a PT, an allergist, an oncologist, a pulmonologist, a surgeon, an otolaryngologist. That's a long word. Otolaryngologist. Or we often call him an ENT. And I'm going to give this one away. ENT stands for ear, nose, and throat. So ENT, otolaryngologist, is a long word. So we say ENT. A gastroenterologist, we often call him a GI doctor. And an obstetrician or a gynecologist, an OB-GYN. Often this doctor does both things, obstetrician and gynecologist. Sometimes they're very specific, so you go to an obstetrician or you go to a gynecologist, and we refer to them as OB-GYNs. Okay, I also published for you an example of a conversation, maybe if you're calling in sick to work, where you have to call your boss and say to your boss what is wrong and that you're not coming in today. So you might say, hello, good morning. This is Philomena. I'm calling to tell you that I can't come into work today because I have a fever and a sore throat. I feel sick, or I just don't feel well. Maybe if you need to call your child's school to report him or her sick, you might say, hello, good morning. My name is Philomena Elliott. My daughter Laura is sick today. She will not be coming to school because she has a sore throat and a fever. Could her teacher please send her any work she will miss? Maybe you need to write a note of absence for your child when he goes back to school. So you might say, please excuse my son Thomas for his absence yesterday. He had a bad stomach ache. And then sign it sincerely and your name, Samuel Edison. Here's another one. Please excuse my daughter Maria for her absence from 5:15 to 5:17, or whatever the span of days are. You might say from Monday, May 15th to Wednesday, May 17th. She had a sore throat and cough. Sincerely, Alessandro Montessori. Okay, so you want to specify for the absence why the child was home, and sometimes the school will ask you if it's longer than 3 days to send a doctor's note. So you might have to send a doctor's note if it's longer than a certain amount of days. Definitely, when your child is in good health, you want to send him or her to school so that he or she is always learning and getting better and better at doing well in school.